This is your community, and you've made a decision to stand up and say something in this community. I didn't organize this. This was our children.
Lakeland can do better.
We should know what we're protesting for. It shows unity.
I'm here to be the voice for people who can't talk.
For the first time, I actually feel like the world is paying attention. Some people are opening their eyes for the first time because people like you and me are out here, refusing to let up.
I want you to take something away from today, and I want you to bring those around you to the table.
Welcome to part 16 of A Piece of Good News. We're in Shrub Oak.
And a lot of the local youth have organized a march and had a lot of speeches to hear from the experiences of the community and talk about the movement and equality in their community and what they can do. So let's check out what they had to say.
First, there were some racist videos released by Canis, and then there was a statement from Dr. Stone that we felt was inadequate in addressing racism in our school district. His second statement was better, but we still feel like Lakeland can do better. Lakeland can stand up and be actively anti-racist.
So I kind of took it upon myself to gather people who feel strongly about this cause because there's racial injustice all over the place.
We're best friends, so we would do anything for each other, and we all feel strongly about it. So if it's here in our community, we're gonna go for it and take advantage of it. So.
And it's also to just educate ourselves on the topic too.
Yeah.
Like we should know what we're protesting for. So it's an opportunity to learn new things. And
I think regardless if we were friends, we would all still be out here just because of our beliefs and how we were raised.
Exactly. Yeah, it's awesome.
It is awesome. Seeing all ethnic groups and all colors here, just fighting for the same cause. It shows unity.
I say Black lives, you say matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. No peace. No justice. No peace. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
I noticed a lot of stuff online, like racist comments, people calling each other out, saying the most nasty stuff I've ever heard, and I'm here to be the voice for people who can't talk.
I'd like to see racism and the bias that's ingrained in our institutions removed. Your whole life where you live is in your local town. And so you want to speak up in your local town to make sure you're getting what you need.
I think this is always only the first step, and really engaging local communities, local governments, local school districts is always just as important in making systemic change, because we need to change our institutions. It's great that the community is coming together to stand together, but we need to keep moving forward to change society as a whole.
In New York, you are able to register online with your New York State DMV-issued driver's license, permit, or non-driver ID in 2 minutes. New York is also one of 14 states that allows 16 and 17-year-olds to pre-register. Get yourself registered and get your friends registered. You can set a reminder for when to vote if you're younger than 18. It is everyone's responsibility as co-conspirators against white supremacy to vote in support of racial justice and equity. To quote Irving Welsh, "Where you're not doing so well, vote for a better life for yourself. If you are doing quite nicely, vote for a better life for others."
We need to hire more black teachers and black administrators. We have to fix the cultural mismatch that this deficiency promotes. We need to immediately examine our curriculum and immediately remove all text and all materials that mask racism. But most importantly, what we as leaders need to do is we need to not just hear what you're saying, we need to listen. And when those in power listen and then act, real change can happen. And it is happening.
Two amazing alumni, Lourdes and Salma Vivanco, have taken the lead in writing a letter to the Lakeland Central School District in efforts to promote anti-racism within the Lakeland District. The demands shared in this letter are aimed to target the systemic inequities that disproportionately impact Black people. First, we demand that the Lakeland Central School District establish an anti-racism district policy that explicitly condemns racism and includes anti-racism regulations. Second, we demand that the Lakeland District prioritize the needs of marginalized communities in our schools by making the following initial changes. First, by embracing inclusion of marginalized groups as a part of their mission statement. We do not want generalized statements about diversity because it implies tolerance rather than acceptance. Also, by recruiting more teachers of color because it is evident that the diversity of the faculty and administration is not reflective of the many identities held by the student body. Also, by appointing a diversity and inclusion coordinator. Finally, we demand them to develop an anti-racism curriculum by including the following in their action plan. Student collaboration in the curriculum task force, where Black students and students of color can get involved in the curriculum revision process. Also, by including more Black literature, scholarship, and art in the curriculum. And by providing resources on topics of racism, white supremacy, social justice, among others.
George Floyd! George Floyd! Breonna Taylor!
I'm here because I'm tired of seeing Black people die. It's simple. It's just that simple. Yeah. I want to grow up and raise kids in a world where I don't have to worry about them or myself being killed because of hate and ignorance. Enough is enough. It shouldn't have taken the murders of people like Breonna Taylor and George Floyd for us to care about racism. It is not a problem that is removed from us all. Their deaths weren't so-called wake-up calls. Black people have been screaming for centuries for this all to stop, but people ignored it. So let's all make a vow to care about injustice and take action the first time people ask for it, locally and globally.
I've also seen a lot of racist people getting exposed on Twitter from our schools. Which is great, and their friends will be like, well, how is that fair? Now, this is gonna affect them for the rest of their lives. Well, yeah, if not, they'd be affecting people for the rest of their lives. They would be our future doctors, our future cops, our future lawyers. And how is that right? Why would we want more racist people in the system? The right thing to do is to apologize, to educate yourself, and not to make up excuses. People will come out here and be like, but you don't know the context, but it was a joke, but nothing. What excuse are you gonna come up with that is gonna justify that? What you have to do, if you're a mature person and you're willing to learn, you have to apologize. You have to recognize that you're wrong, and it's hard to do that when you have a lot of pride, but you have to recognize that you're wrong, and you have to say, I'm sorry, and I'm gonna try to do better.
Coming to a conversation like this with the understanding that racism exists is not nearly enough, and I feel like that's where a lot of people start off. Criminalizing survival is a tactic that has been used throughout history to make it so that Black, brown, impoverished people get disproportionately imprisoned, harassed, assaulted, and murdered by those in power. So we have to actively challenge that as much as possible, and we have to think about why we cling to these power structures.
I don't believe all cops are bad. I do believe the system gives all cops the capacity and power to be. Your job is to protect us all, and just that, not to intimidate or to abuse power.
This is what democracy looks like! This is what democracy looks like! Stop the violence, stop the hate!
I've been that paranoid girl walking home alone at night, wondering who was going to see me as a victim and decide to attack me. But I've also been the threat. I've been the unidentifiable Black figure walking down an empty street. And I realized then that it doesn't matter whether or not I mean to do someone bodily harm. It's how they perceive me that will always come first. Black people have this double consciousness. They don't have the luxury of moving through the world however they want, because they will always be perceived as a threat by people who don't realize their prejudice. They can't just think for themselves, they also have to think for everyone else in the room. They have to enter the minds of those around them and adjust their behavior accordingly. When I walk into a store, I hold my items away from my pockets so no one thinks I'm stealing. I smile broadly at strangers. My voice goes higher when speaking to a person in authority, and I apologize profusely to emphasize my meekness. I do anything and everything to make people feel comfortable. These are survival techniques my parents taught me because they knew that I would exist differently in the world. Black people have to exaggerate their innocence in order to make up for their blackness. For us, it's not innocent until proven guilty. It's guilty until convinced otherwise.
I remember first grade, I didn't speak any English, and I used to come home crying every day because I just wanted the kids to play with me. and I couldn't speak English. But then eventually I learned it, and one of my first memories that I remember was in 3rd grade, and I got made fun of for my name. And my name is my identity, you know? We all know so many Asians that have changed their name into something American because people can't pronounce their name. And we're suppressing their identity. We're suppressing their culture when we ask them to make that choice to change their birth-given name.
This year is different for everyone. Everyone. From the pandemic to the killings. I feel happier today for the speeches, the profound words that I heard from all of you. It gives me hope. I felt it. I need to do better as a teacher. I'm able to admit that, to push more to my principal, to district, to teach more curriculum, more Black curriculum. To encourage my counterparts, my white counterparts, to step outside their comfortable box and do more lessons that are uncomfortable to them and uncomfortable for our kids. A while ago, I started doing that brown eyes, light eyes, dark eyes lesson in my class with my 4th graders. Jane Elliott did it 1968, I believe, to her whole white class and had them treat each other the way the Blacks were being treated during that time. Well, I brought that into my class, and I've been doing that with my students. And every year, it breaks my heart because the kids cry. The kids cry because they're being treated. Now, I don't do eye color, I usually do hair color or something like that. But I treat them differently, tell them that you can't go to the bathroom, or no, you can't go to recess. And we literally do it for 30 minutes, but within that time, I'm hoping that they're able to feel what others feel for a lifetime. I hope in that moment that they can hold on to that one lesson that I do, and just have it affect them in a positive way.
Who I don't see here tells me all I need to know, and it should tell you as well. You don't see some of your peers. You don't see some of your parents. You don't see some of the community leaders. And those are the ones we need to talk to. You and me are all on one page. We understand what should be. We understand what we should do. But we have people in our community that don't share the same ideals. It's up to each and every one of us to speak to them. Not to shame them, not to judge them, not to sway them to your side. Everyone has their own opinion, their own point of view, and they're entitled to it, regardless of what it is. That's not the point. If you go home and you shame your parents, your peers, you will lose them forever. And it will make our mission that much harder. Okay? What we need to understand is that what brings us together is so much more than what sets us apart.
A piece of good news for me. Well, I work in a hospital nearby, and in terms of COVID at least, we've had no new cases for a while, which is great news too, which means that it's starting to calm down and hopefully people get to stay safe and healthy during all of this, and that they keep showing up and supporting important causes, not even just Black Lives Matter, but it's also Pride Month too, so it's important to keep that in mind as well. For straight Black people, for cis people, for Black trans lives are so important, and I think that they get put on the back burner a lot, and it's important to remember that they matter as well.
It's not us versus them, Black versus white, or Black versus blue. This fight is for all of us. We all have the power to do better. We have to do better. Please show up where it counts. Vote, sign the petitions, donate as much as you can, and encourage your friends and families to do the same. We are stronger together.
it's not necessarily everyone's fault, like that's the way we were taught, but it is our responsibility to change that, because I really think that like our generation is meant to change these things because we've had enough.
No matter what your ethnicity, you have the right to share your voice with this movement. We need people from all cultures to recognize and speak up about racism being a problem.
Talk to your parents, because it starts at home.
Racism will not always present itself as big and obvious. It's in the little things too. It's in the insinuations, the subtle asides, an assumption, or lack of understanding. It manifests in the quietest and most destructive ways that can really affect a person for a lifetime. If we directly address this in schools and demand educational institutions to be undeniably anti-racist, we can forge a path of not just tolerating Black people, but making a fervent effort to prioritize the restitution of the Black community. I'm pleading with you to take up metaphorical arms in whichever way you can against the disease of racism, whether that looks like signing hordes of petitions, emailing, calling your school board, voting, or taking to the streets. Because even once the hype dies down, people will still be Black.